Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. We are here in Canyon, California at this super secret solar training center. This is where we've got all kinds of stuff going on, and we actually have some solar lighting in here. It's called a skylight. It's pretty cool. And this is Mike Bishop. Mike Bishop is kind of famous in the solar industry, especially back in the old days when I used to do designing of solar systems on this software called OnGrid, and you're like part of that. And there was another guy called Andy Black. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about like that. I like solar history. Maybe you got some OnGrid history.
Yeah, first off, I'm very excited and honored to be here.
Oh, thanks.
Big fan of the show.
All right.
So thank you. Yeah, the OnGrid tool, back in the early 2000s, people would go solar mainly because they wanted to have that power security if the grid went out, or they wanted to do it for environmental reasons, or they wanted to impress their friends. And Andy Black came along and right when the big rebates in California and the net metering, and said, hey, this can actually be a legit financial investment with a solid internal rate of return and whatnot. And so he worked out a very elaborate spreadsheet for that, and then ended up making it available to other contractors.
Yeah, I remember like in 2008, I got this full-time solar job with Fidelity Roof Company, and me and Stuart Wentworth, we were the solar division. And there's two different types of software you could do. That's all there was. Like now it's like, you know, there's different ones, Aurora, Helioscope, all that kind of stuff. Or, you know, you could probably list them off better than I can because you were in that business. But there was lots of different...
Solar Nexus.
Solar Nexus, Energy Periscope, and Aurora, and all these different companies. And so there's all this software, and kind of what you do is like you have a solar company. And in fact, I remember working with Stuart Wentworth, actually. He made quick mount PV with his wife Claudia at the time. And so they actually had their own spreadsheet. And so they had just like an Excel spreadsheet. And that's what OnGrid was like a real fancy Excel spreadsheet. And I think most people used it. Do you know how much like market share you guys had?
It's a few hundred companies around the country that had paid subscriptions.
And back then that was like probably the whole solar industry. I mean, were you guys first at doing that pretty much?
It was us and Clean Power Research.
Yeah, and then they changed their name to Clean Power Finance, I guess. And
that was a different company.
Oh, it was different, Clean Power Research. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so, do you know when OnGrid started?
2006, right around there.
Oh, 2006. And then were you involved right from the beginning?
2007, yeah.
2007,
And pretty quickly I became the resident spreadsheet nerd to cover the development.
Yeah, and I remember it was like, what is it, once or twice a week you had like a phone call, or like people would call in with, was it Skype or something like that? Or
we used GoToMeeting.
Yeah, GoToMeeting, that was probably before they had Zoom, I guess, I imagine.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, and that was hour and a half, 2 hours of just going around the room. So we would ask a question, we'd go through it on screen share. And sometimes like 10 or 15 people in there, I could really feel like a solar nerd party.
So it's kind of like how I have a podcast, but I actually got to know you by, you were broadcasting on GoToMeeting, and I would be logging in every time. And sometimes, you know, a lot of times it would be in the background, like I'd be doing my work. And then I would go like, oh, let's listen to this person's problem. And somebody would call in, and then you would tell them like what to do on the spreadsheet and all that. And that's kind of how I learned about like a lot of financial stuff and tax credits and like how they're calculated. And like you just mentioned, internal rate of return, IRR, and things like that. And so it's pretty cool to learn about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a tribe for people that really tried to do proper diligence and give numbers that actually had some bearing on how the system would actually do in reality.
Yeah, and then so like, I can't remember when it was. It was like, was it like Tuesday mornings or something?
Tuesday and Friday morning.
Tuesday and Friday morning for what time?
9:30 to as late as 11:30.
Okay, and then so for a couple hours, Tuesday and Friday. And when did you stop doing that? Or maybe you're still doing it just by yourself?
Yeah, so some news on that. So 2014, 2015, around there, 2015, I was able to get ownership of OnGrid from Andy through solar financing.
You made him an offer he cannot refuse. No horse heads in the bed or anything?
Not that kind of guy, at least back then, you know. Getting a little more edgy in my older age. But yeah, he took me up on that, and I threw the long pass to rebuilt OnGrid tool from the ground up, and didn't mind the cash flow. Also, Sungevity at the time, that was 20% of our revenue. They went bankrupt, so I couldn't hold on to it. Passed it back to him. But then, just this late past year, he said, "You know, I'm ready to be done with the OnGrid tool. We still have like a dozen subscribers at this point." And he just, because it doesn't handle battery modeling and it doesn't handle, it assumes net metering. So lost a lot of the market share. He gave it back to me, and I recently decided to open source it. So now the OnGrid tool is available for free, and you don't need to sign up or anything at ongrid.wtf.
OnGrid.wtf. I remember before it was always OnGrid.net. Do you still have that?
Yeah, I'll move that domain over.
So still, if you go on to OnGrid.net too. And I remember there was like these cool articles on there too that I would like have my students read. And so some of these articles were about like, what if you sell your house? How does the solar increase the value? I think something like that.
Resale value also, that was Andy's, I'd say, pretty important article for that time, initially published at NorCal Solar. And that's available at ongrid.wtf, if nothing else at this point, as a historical document. But that was really breaking it down, how solar can be a super legit financial investment.
No, I think it's still relevant. And other strange things too is like, I guess Andy Black, who started OnGrid, that you worked with and who just gave you the tool, he was on the board of directors at NorCal Solar. And I think I've been on the board of directors for, I don't know, like 12 or 14 years, but I'm president of NorCal Solar right now too.
Cheers.
And so I remember when we had our 50-year party, and somehow we found him on LinkedIn or something, and he was chatting back with us. And where is he? Andy Black is on an island somewhere in Canada, like a non-tropical island.
I think he's living the dream, Prince Edward Island. He seems pretty happy there.
And so did he retire from like OnGrid being a success, or like, how did he retire? I don't remember him being like an old guy or anything like that.
He retired from solar, and OnGrid worked out pretty well for him financially. Very cool, And I always wonder too, like I think about that, like OnGrid was kind of the only game in town, it seemed like when I started. And then there became, like right now, I think the company that's kind of filling that niche, they're not the only game in town, but Aurora Solar. And they've been like, they got valuated at like billions of dollars or something like that. Do you think if you like played the cards a little bit different and, you know, something like that, that you'd be a billionaire? Not a billionaire, but maybe I'd still be in the game. It would have been interesting if that newer OnGrid tool version that was really based around interval data modeling, if that would have hit the market, it would have been interesting to see how that went.
Because I mean, I'm just like trying to think of like what, like, because you were there first, what made Aurora different? Like they got a bunch of investors and scaled up quick, like some kind of startup or something like that, I guess maybe.
Yeah, they got really big investment and still have really slick design tool.
But that's probably because somebody invested hundreds of millions of dollars and they could just scale up really quick, probably. That gave them the fancy tool, something like that.
Right, yeah, in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, the right place at the right time.
Another one was Energy Toolbase, which is a lot. They took the battery modeling, the detail around that a lot more seriously than Aurora.
Yeah.
They're still available too.
Yeah, and I remember too, like when they did the batteries in a good way first, I guess you could say, and a lot of their competitors would say, oh, we do everything but the batteries, and if you want to do batteries, we work well with Energy Toolbase. I remember that was like kind of what Energy Toolbase's competitors were saying. So they were kind of in a good spot too, like taking on batteries early. And now it would be impossible to do it without batteries. But when OnGrid first started, they were not really doing batteries. I mean, most people weren't. I guess you said around 2006, that wasn't really where the money was. The money was like in rebates, mostly in California is where like at least half of the industry was in the United States. And we were going after these like rebates that were, what were they, like almost $3 a watt?
I remember $4 a watt.
$4 a watt for like the California Solar Initiative, CSI rebates.
Big money.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So like just for people that aren't in the sales part of the industry, or like $4 a watt, that means you could buy like a couple of solar systems in some places for that. Like maybe in the United States, somewhere like $2 to $4 a watt, something like that. And for residential, and $1 a watt for utility scale solar. And in other places in the world, they're going under $1 a watt, even for residential solar. So it just goes to show you how the price went down and times change.
Yeah, and I assume that the rebates were a success.
Yeah.
They played a part in the cost dropping so dramatically.
Yeah, and then I remember that the governor was kind of into that too.
That's right.
So we had some people called him what was the jolly green governor or the governator. So we had Schwarzenegger smoking his cigars and pushing for solar and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that brought a lot of people around to it.
Yeah, and it was like back there was like lots of net metering. And one of the things that I think that was well designed about the California Solar Initiative is they called it the expected performance-based buy down. And so there would be a certain amount of rebates, like you said, started at $4 a watt, I guess. And that was really early when all the equipment was really expensive and everything was expensive. And then as the price went down and a certain amount of people reserved that $4 a watt, then it went down to the next level, and then it was like $3.90 or something like that. And it would go down. So people would have an incentive to say, sign up now while you still can because it's $4. But the rebate went down as the price of solar went down, so it was matched really well. Unlike with the tax credits, where it's just like, okay, we're jumping off a cliff.
Yeah, tax credits and also net metering.
And net metering too. It's like, and it's kind of interesting too, like the solar industry in California, even like a lot of people think like, oh, Democrats, Republicans, and it's all that. The solar industry in California, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, better than Newsom, because Newsom are his people that he appointed to the Public Utility Commission, just cut off net metering pretty sudden. And so it wasn't a gradual change, and it like put a lot of people out of work.
Yeah, Newsom is not on the side of the distributed energy resource people.
Yeah.
Alas.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting. I remember one time there was like was it Time Magazine or something like that? And they had a cover that had Elon Musk and Warren Buffett. And so Warren Buffett was for utility scale solar, and Elon Solar City was for, rooftop solar. And they were battling it out. So instead of like solar being all on the same team, it's like the small solar versus the big solar. And I think distributed solar is pretty cool. And you say, well, distributed solar, DG, distributed generation, make it where you use it. A lot of times people consider that rooftop it might cost more because you don't have the economies of scale, like putting up some big field. But when you're putting up some big field, you have to like send it over these big long transmission lines, and there's only so many of these big long transmission lines. And then you have to make transformers, and you can overload the lines. And when you're making it where you're using it, you don't have to do any kind of transmission. So it's like, even if it costs twice as much to put it up on your roof, maybe it's twice as good. Maybe it's 3 times as good.
Yeah. That makes it that much more compelling behind the meter investment, given how hard it is to do major new infrastructure build out in this country at this point.
Yeah. And it was like, I remember too, like you go back to that era of the pre-2010 and all that kind of stuff. It's like batteries, it's like, that didn't mean what batteries meant today. It meant like, you're going to go get some big old lead acid batteries and some off-grid style charge controller, and it was going to cost, I don't know, double, triple of a system that didn't have batteries, probably something like that.
Yeah, our friend Bill Brooks has made that point that in 1999, the standard PV system came with batteries, given in large part the Y2K scare.
Yeah. Good way to boost the solar industry. You got Y2K, COVID, all these, end of the world scenarios.
Yeah.
Preppers, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but whatever the impetus is, it's good to have some resiliency in our systems that we critically depend on.
Yeah. We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. So let's see. So what are some other good topics? What have you been thinking of lately?
Yeah, thank you, man. Just first off, again, I'm really happy to be at this up and coming training center. I remember early on when I got into solar, maybe 2007, went up to Hopland Solar Learning Institute for a week and learned PV up there. And it was absolutely formative for me to go to a place where it was far away from everything and I could totally immerse in the geekery. So
yeah, and so by the way, people, that's where we are. We're building the solar training center smack in the middle of the Bay Area on some property that I grew up on, and we're building it out right now. But yeah, and I'm working very hard trying to get this place done, and it's been quite educational for me dealing with contractors that are not solar contractors, roofing contractors, and dealing with standing seam roofs and oil canning and stucco quotes and all these things that I just didn't expect to have to deal with when I'm, just trying to do solar,
Yeah. You take on a lot, my friend.
Yeah.
I appreciate the power moves.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I have a list here. One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is something called Energy Net.
Energy Net.
Yes. And this is something that's based out of Sweden. And David Roberts, Volt's podcast, recently interviewed the main guy behind it. But the idea is this main guy in Sweden, before he got into energy, he was working on broadband internet to make broadband internet more decentralized, distributed, more affordable, give people more choice. And that worked out well. And now he's taking the same idea and applying it to energy. And the idea is that you can have a microgrid, which it could be a larger grid, but there is a controlled passing of electricity between a source and a load. And instead of right now, it's this centralized utility. Basically, you have different sites or different microgrids behind an energy gateway. And with power conversion, you have inputs and you have outputs. And then there's an agreement, okay, you need this power, I'll share this power with you at a certain price or for free or however that's arranged. Especially given the people behind it did really innovative stuff with broadband internet. I'm pretty excited about the potential with this Energy Net, and there's an open protocol that they've written for it. So that's it on my mind.
So when you first said Energy Net, I was thinking of like net metering, and it's a different kind of net. It's not like the net that an accountant thinks of. It's like a network.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, so like an energy network. Okay.
Exactly,
great.
right. And the idea is, a major idea behind it is that with all of these so-called energy routers, there's galvanic isolation that truly separates them from the rest of the network, so then you can have a controlled sharing of power around this network.
Okay, so sort of like microgrids. Like with isolating things from each other. Very cool.
Exactly right.
And I remember just like speaking of, being educational here with galvanic isolation, when you have a boat, like I have a sailboat with Bill Brooks, who you mentioned, and we actually went sailing yesterday. And good thing Bill's a good mechanic because the fuel gets full of algae. But anyway, when you plug your boat into the dock, if your neighbor's boat is grounded wrong, it could actually make your propeller dissolve because you're connected to the same, plug. Your plug is like electrically connected to theirs, and people that work on boats are not electricians a lot of times, and they're like putting the wires backwards and things like that. And so one of the things that you can do if you have an expensive boat that you're worried about your propeller dissolving on is you'll have galvanic isolation. So it'll be like a transformer that doesn't change the voltage. So your boat is isolated from like the dock ground, so you won't have like these currents. Apparently, like you could take a voltmeter and stick it in different places in the marina, in the water, and salt water is better at conducting electricity than non-salt water. And you'll find out that the voltage will be different from the front to the back of your boat. And so I learned a lot about grounding from studying boats.
You have to save that asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to like, they just be like little currents flowing around in the current,
Yeah, and it's wild how electricity will find a way to take all the parallel paths, including the stray current through your boat back to source.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. Like with these Scandinavians with their energy net, and I'm sure we have a lot of that going on here too. And we have, power control systems, which are now considered a division of energy management systems as far as the code goes, PCS and EMS. And so we'll be learning a lot more about that too. And another thing too that I was thinking about, like networking all these things together, lots of jobs. I know people are afraid of AI taking their jobs, but I think also just like when they invented computers and everybody thought computers were going to take their jobs, it makes a lot more jobs. So who's going to tell the AI what to do and what device to turn on the energy net? And, somehow AI is going to be involved in all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a ton of solar happening to power this AI. Even if we have a president that doesn't like solar, look, we're still building it like crazy because we need power. That's the big limitation. It's like these chips take energy, and it's really important to, win the game as far as being like a global power and all that kind of stuff. And so our governments and large corporations are going to be building out these huge AI centers, and we're going to need to get those all networked together, and we're going to need a lot of people that understand solar kind of on a higher level than just twisting bolts.
Well, I got a crackerjack a thought on that. And I don't mean this as a plug, but the EnergyNet white paper in PDF, it's hard for me to read on the phone. I'd like to have it in dark mode. And so I broke it up into 4 blog posts at the Slow Power blog.
Oh, great. Yeah, tell us about where to find it.
Slowpower.wtf, and then in the blog.
And what does WTF stand for? What, though, does it stand for?
Yes, sir. I don't know if swearing is allowed on your podcast, but... What the Frank?
No.
Yeah, David Roberts with the bolts.wtf, he blazed the way with that. Yeah, so with that said, so the AI, I know people have appropriate environmental and social concerns about it, but I also think it's a really incredible technology. It's super helpful for me. And given the huge power needs, there's the possibility for a lot of that is the training of an AI model, and there's the possibility of doing that in a distributed way. Mm-hmm. And now in most of California and a lot of the rest of the country without net metering, the extra solar, you send it to the grid for more or less wholesale rate. Well, what if instead there was distributed training of new AI models and potentially hosting of AI models with that extra power, that in the winter season, that would also add heating to the house, right? Because it all ends up as heating.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And another thing that I was just thinking of too is how AI might help solar. Like a lot of people are afraid like, oh, it takes too much energy, it's bad for the environment. But we need to build it. I mean, it's pretty much agreed upon by all the smart people out there, or a lot of the smart people out there, that we're gonna be building up these data centers really, really fast if we want to compete, like say with China or something like that. And in order to build them up really fast, we need to use solar. Because all these other energy sources, you can't build it up as fast. It's like you try, natural gas, coal, nuclear, everything. Solar's the fastest. Solar, you could just start putting it up. Sure. Here's one module at a time. And you could have your solar modules working before that big field is full of solar. And you can put the data centers where the solar is and things like that. It could do all that computing. There's even talk of solar in space, but maybe we won't go there right this minute. And so we need all this solar. So the more you make, you've probably heard of Swanson's Law. And I actually I got to talk to Dick Swanson recently, which was pretty cool.
Remind me of Swanson's Law?
So every time the amount of solar installed in the world doubles, the price goes down by 20%.
Play on Moore's Law.
Yeah, it's sort of semi-related to that, but Moore's Law is more like you're gonna keep getting this doubling. Mm-hmm. And you can't just keep getting this doubling of efficiency, but you're gonna get the price to go down by 20%. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty darn cheap, compared to how it used to be when we first started in this industry. It's bizarre how inexpensive it is. Nobody would have believed us if we told them where we would be as far as the price of solar goes. And it keeps, the price keeps going down.
It's mind-blowing.
And so if we keep building up this solar for these data centers and the price keeps going down, and then you got fossil fuels, they're going to get more rare. price is going to be going up and things like that too. But as the price keeps going down and the price of batteries kind of follows that same trajectory too, because even though it's not Swanson's law for solar, it's sort of like the same type of thing for batteries. Price goes down for batteries, and then doing any other type of energy is just going to be dumb. It's going to take a lot longer and be a lot more expensive. Yeah.
That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the potential of nuclear fusion?
Nuclear fusion, that's a thing of the future, and it always will be a thing of the future. So even when you get to the future, they're still going to call it the future. But we'll see. But even like if we're not worried about, the potential to make bombs with fission, the type of nuclear energy that we have right now, that's one of the things that I get afraid of, is that when a country has a nuclear program, they're going to start off by making clean energy. That's going to be kind of their excuse. Mm-hmm. But these things, they take so long to build. And it's always been one of these things too. It's like after, 3 Mile Island, they're like, oh, that's never going to happen again because we learned our lesson. And then you get Chernobyl, and they're like, oh, that's never going to happen again because we learned our lesson. And then you have Fukushima, but now we know it's never going to happen again, right?
Yeah. Right now, solar and batteries, that's the move. I will say, one of my favorite interviewers, this guy, Lex Friedman, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, I listened to him a lot. He helps me fall asleep because his voice is like really soothing. He's
He's so slow, as he has said. But
like
a couple months ago,
Slow Power. That's your website.
Represent. But a couple months ago, he talked with this guy working on nuclear fusion. And even if you have really no interest in that as an actual practical future power, just hearing the guy talk with with extreme intelligence about extremely mind-dead bendingly advanced electrical work that they're doing, working on nuclear fusion. I definitely recommend that episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But we know that solar is just getting to be very, very inexpensive. And then the more we make, the lower the price goes. And if we even make more because of this data center thing, then the price will just go down so much that there's no contest on what is the least expensive, fastest to build energy that there ever was. And I think we're kind of already there. And then when we cut the price down in half again, it'll be like totally stupid to like burn things for energy. It's like, that's like what cavemen did, burning things for energy. We're in a new era.
Yeah. So YouTube channel Technology Connections, this guy he'll spend over an hour talking about how bad the laundry detergent pods are, or dishwasher detergent pods are rather, but he did like an hour and a half episode about solar, which I really recommend, is a recent one. And he brought up the point that for the most part, a solar module is aluminum and glass. Mm-hmm. And this is stuff that we make for containers for our food. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about instead using that, which makes up the vast majority of a module by weight, to give us 30 years of free power.
And I think like 30 is just kind of random. I mean, these solar modules right behind us, the one that's a little bit brown there, like if some of you can't see us, most of you can't see us because this is on YouTube also, but the Arco Solar module, I had an episode with Jeff Spies, and we were talking about these Arco Solar modules. We did an unboxing. But this particular solar module has been in use most of the time since the 1980s. And it works, maybe it's had a little bit of degradation, but it works pretty well, and that's like a long time ago.
By the way, shout out to Jeff. I appreciate that man so much.
Yeah.
I assume that for rooftop solar, typically it's going to be when it's time to re-roof. And they're going to say, well, the new modules are so cheap, let's just add new. But otherwise, they would have kept going for years and years.
Yeah. And so pretty much, I think in a lot of cases, you can get older solar modules for free. Yeah, I've known some people that just go to the dump and they go like, can I get those free solar modules there? And let's look at they're less efficient, right? But it's not the same type of efficiency that a lot of people think of when they think of efficiency. It just means it takes up a little bit more space to make the same amount of energy. That's what efficiency is with solar.
And at this point, just put solar on the north face of your house, and if it's not too steep of a hill, you're still producing, 60% of the power or something like that you would have on the south face?
Yeah, I think about 2/3 of the power on the north. Yeah.
And
Depends on where you are, how steep your roof is, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people where, like even in this building, where we just put the roof on, so we're actually not even quite done with the roof, but there's some trees to the south, and we might do pretty equal going to the north versus the south. The solar is so inexpensive, it's like just fill them both up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fill it up. Although we do have the constraint here of no more than a third of the surface area of the roof can be filled with solar. Is that right? Without a sprinkler system?
No, you could get up to 2/3. If you go up to 2/3, between 1/3 and 2/3 without a sprinkler system, you would have to have 3 feet from the ridge clearance for firefighters. But if you get to 18 inches, if you want to do 18 inches from the ridge, then you need a sprinkler between 1/3 and 2/3.
Got it.
So, yeah.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll add here, the last couple of years, I've been, we'll call it part-time, installing PV and batteries, going out there as a computer nerd and getting my butt kicked in the field. So this is helpful for me.
Oh, great.
I was going to say on the used modules, once in Berkeley, this guy, he bought some used modules. He wanted me to put them on his roof. He wanted a permit. And unfortunately, I would have had to get those modules, those specific modules, tested by a lab as used modules in order to put them on his roof. So that's a constraint.
Which would cost way more than a brand new module
Exactly.
to go out and do that testing. That's a shame that Berkeley is so against the environment.
Yeah, and I don't know how many HJs around the country to require that.
Because that's not a code thing. I mean, that's not in the NEC. As long as it's UL listed, you're good.
So you would assume that's an exception?
That's just a certain, that's a Berkeley rule or something, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. Another thing to talk about.
However, let me take that back.
Yeah.
These ones, they don't have a UL mark on them, so, but they're from the 80s, you know, so I don't think it's illegal to have them inside, you know.
Back when this is highly coveted, this is the kind of thing people would crowd around and say, gee whiz,
Yeah.
from outer space.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So actually on the topic of AI, you is deeply literate in electrical code and UL listings and whatnot. Do you play with AI and is it pretty on point, pretty reliable with its code references and?
Yeah. Oh, it's wrong all the time.
Oh, really?
One of the things that I sometimes do is I use different versions. Like I'll use like Gemini and ChatGPT, and I'll like ask them the same question. And I get it. The worst part that I think about AI, one time I had AI on the podcast, I'll put a link to that. And I was catching it being wrong all the time.
I listen to that.
And so at least AI doesn't get even with you when you swear at it. WTF. But yeah, it's wrong and it's confident in its wrongness. Like sometimes you're just like, oh, that's got to be right. You're so confident AI and it's wrong. I wish that AI was a little bit more human and we're like, I'm pretty sure about this, or, you know, something you never see. It's just like black and white.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll fix that at some point, but
It seems to be getting better a lot over the last couple of years.
But a lot of times it can take me to different websites about, you know, where something is with the code, or like, I mean, I definitely ask things about the code, but I also definitely need to know when it's wrong. And so that would be a great reason to take my class.
Word.
Or your class too, because at the NABCEP conference, which is going to encompass St. Patrick's Day, March 17th is one of the days in there. Are you giving a talk there? You usually do, right?
Yeah, the last day.
So look out for Mike Bishop's talk at the NABCEP conference. I remember going into your talk. It's a little bit difficult for me because I'm teaching a class most of the whole conference. I think the only time I get to go see other people are right at the beginning, like they start things a day early. I think that's usually a Monday, or the end. I think I finish halfway through Thursday, and I do the PV Associate Boot Camp. So go there, sign up, SolarSEAN.com. You can check it out, get links to all this, or nabcep.org, and check out my associate class, or what's the name of your class at the NABCEP conference?
Site Power Systems, a technical and financial overview.
Cool, yep.
Yeah, but props to you for your stamina of going the whole conference. You teach so much there.
Well, I am AI, sorry, just to let you know.
Well, you fooled me, just like ChatGPT fooled me. By the way, I'm very excited about the NABCEP show. That's my happy place professionally. Such incredibly good people trying to do good work.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. And this time, they're going to do like 2 different themes. Usually they just do a theme. Like, so last time it was Alice in Wonderland. And so I sang White Rabbit for the lip sync.
Yeah,
but then I changed the words to like Go Ask NABCEP instead of Go Ask Alice and all this stuff. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, man, you really put yourself out there. I was inspired.
And so this one, they're going to have St. Patrick's Day theme, but also sports theme. And I was just like, what song am I going to sing first? You know, like it's related to sports theme. I couldn't really think of that, but I found there's a hockey team called the Solar Bears in Orlando. You know, great place for ice, Orlando. And so I got a Orlando Solar Bears jersey, and for the name I had it go ESIP PVIP, so Energy Storage Installation Professional NABCEP certification, PV Installation Professional NABCEP certification, and then my number is 690. So that's where you find solar in the NEC until 2029. They're changing 690 to 506. They're doing some reorganizations. So then it'll be like rapid shutdown 506.12. You'll have to look for some of these reorganizations. But I'm always starting the lip sync because I'm, I guess, the least nervous person. And so they always, Sean O'Brien, the president, CEO of NABCEP, always has me start the lip sync. And so I got to figure out my song. You know, I was thinking about like, because I've been to many Dead shows and stuff like that, doing something because, you know, Bob Weir just passed away. And I was trying to think like, well, I could do one of those songs and try to change it to like a little bit NABCEP-y, you know, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but you really break the ice out there.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing what you cook up.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I always surprise myself too, because I like freestyle it. You know, a little bit. I kind of get a sort of an idea, but then I freestyle it. You know.
Yeah, everybody loosens up when you get out there. Yeah.
In addition to this podcast being brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast, it is brought to you by Intellectual Curiosity.
So right now, California has a $24 fixed charge, or that's for the 3 investor-owned utilities. And as far as I know, there's no cap on that. So we'll see where that is in 5 years, 10 years from now.
Oh, and so it's just like a flat charge instead of an electricity charge. And that's for people with solar or just everyone?
Everyone.
And yeah, and I was talking to somebody about that recently, and there's certain places where they don't even let you disconnect. Like it's just like a rule, like you got to be connected to the grid.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like to have a house, you have to pay the utility. I don't think it's fair. I think we should be able to disconnect.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I did go to one Bay Area senior building inspector, and he said, yeah, it is required that you have a grid connection, but he was also appreciating my enthusiasm about the option of disconnecting, and he was open to it.
What if like they required you to connect, but you refused to pay?
Yeah, or you can say...
like you go buy a house and you're just like, I'm not going to even put it under my name, so it can't ruin your credit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's the possibility of saying you moved, disconnecting. And yeah. But one way or another, so now there's lower kWh energy charge, but then kind of equivalently a new fixed charge. So what I've been thinking about is maybe not now, but maybe in a couple of years, if they increase the fixed charge significantly, at what point is it financially better to just disconnect from the grid?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And for the long string of cloudy weather, you're looking at a really small natural gas generator.
Yeah.
Or
a little vacation.
Or a little vacation.
Or candles. Think of that.
Yeah, go old school. It'd be fun. Romantic.
Yeah. In fact, I lived in Alaska in my brother's cabin for a little while. And yeah, we just didn't have electricity, you know?
Yeah, if it's a couple times a year, then it's an opportunity to appreciate.
Yeah, and it's like people think that electricity is just like, you know, abuse if you don't have electricity, or just like something that's so bad. And it's like some people get along without it, or a lot of people have intermittent electricity. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So
if you have just really, even a battery, now there's at least one company that you can put a battery on top of the fridge just to keep the fridge going. You can plug into that. So if you have your refrigerator running at minimum,
you better catch it.
And internet.
Refrigerator running, better catch it. Oh.
Oh man, I'm in good company here.
Knock, knock.
Yeah.
All right.
My kid would love this podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure they're listening right now. So let's do this again, maybe even on a regular basis. I enjoyed talking to you, Mike Bishop, slowpower.wtf, right?
Yeah.
Slow
Please
power.
check out the blog, and I have a monthly email newsletter that I'd be honored if you joined.
Yeah, and then we have to go to lunch, and I have a little surprise for you at lunch, and we'll do this again. Thanks for listening. Sean White, Solar and Energy Storage Podcast, SolarSEAN.com. Go there, get yourself NABCEP certified. Check out the show notes. You'll find links to all these things that we've been talking about. It'll change your life. Ow!
Oh, I love his class. Peace out.
Ow, 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 ow.